extremely well this evening, and I hope you're in the mood for a scary story. Now, tonight's episode is going to be a little bit different. Subscriber and ASMR content creator Wandering Belle ASMR was kind enough to share some of her own psychological horror fiction with the channel, and this will be the first time that we've done a horror fiction story on the channel, which is wild, and I'm super excited to share this with you guys because Wandering Belle is a very talented writer. Now, before we begin, there are some references to subjects that might be difficult for some people to hear about. The full trigger warning is in the description box. It's very mild, but if you're sensitive to certain subjects, go check that out first to see if this video is for you or not. Now, I want to thank Wandering Belle ASMR for sharing her work with the channel, and with that being said, and of course, as always, without any further ado, let's get into the story, shall we? Alright, this story is called Alice. I had been a happy little girl, always sunny and rosy and cheerful, with a squishy little hug ready for anyone who asked. My mum always said that she hit the jackpot with me as a first kid. I frolicked through elementary school with good grades and better friends, never bullied and never a bully. I wasn't exactly gorgeous, but I retained my sweet energy and adorable chubby cheeks and freckles as the years slipped merrily past. Everything was lovely when we lived in Colorado. Everything was lovely, except for the voice. The voice rarely spoke in words. It was just present. Most days it was just a faint hum, like a bumblebee outside the window or the boiler turning on in the basement. Some days it wasn't there at all, but now and again it got louder. Much louder. Some days it was like a drill sergeant barking wordless commands. Some days it was a constant, insistent, unbroken whisper. And very rarely it spoke in words. It told me things, terrible things, awful, disturbing things that I did not want to hear. When I held my mom's best friend's newborn baby, the voice hissed, "Snap his neck." When my mom bought rat poison for the mice that always found a way to sneak into our kitchen, the voice whispered, "Just a little in her dinner." When the guy I had a crush on asked me to the fall dance in 6th grade, the voice shrieked, "Tell him you hate him." When I chopped vegetables for dinner, the voice calmly suggested, "Slit your wrists, no one would miss you." When I sat quietly in church, the voice whispered, "Stand up and curse God." It was a terrible thing, the voice that lingered for as long as I could remember, but I hid it well, and in all honesty, it didn't interfere much with my life. I was still happy and rosy. I learned to tune out the voice, to filter it out of my consciousness, so it only broke through on rare occasions. I was okay. When my mom broke the news that we were moving back to Virginia to be closer was much less okay. Although I had been born in the Virginia countryside, Mum had moved our little two-person family when I was only a few months old, fleeing the memories of my father killed in military combat weeks before I was born. Now, I loved Colorado to bits. I loved my school, I loved my friends, my mountains, my big sky and fields of green gold grass. I could not imagine life anywhere else. Mum told me that I would learn to love Virginia too. She said that I was good at making friends and I'd be settled in no time. I said, okay, but the voice said, kill her. I said, it will be good to be there for Grandma, and the voice said, let her die. We moved within the month. Virginia was indeed beautiful, but it was a different kind of beauty, all soft and blue and hazy, with the heady smell of trees and dew and dirt pervading the air at all times. Not the sharp, clear, majestic beauty and perfectly pure air that had been mine in the West. I knew I could make it work eventually, but the voice said, kill yourself. Our new home was actually our old home, a 2-story house with peeling white paint and a crumbling brick chimney. It was my grandparents' house, the one I'd been born in. Now that Grandpa had passed away and Grandma was in hospice care with stage 4 lung cancer, we were moving back in to take care of the place and to be nearer to her. The new old house was situated down a long gravel lane and backed up to a rolling green field dotted with oaks and sycamores. It should have been lovely. It was lovely aesthetically, but the moment I stepped inside, the voice got exponentially louder. No words at first, just a long, drawn-out shriek. I clapped my hands over my ears and squeezed my eyes shut, as if that would do anything. Casey, Mum asked, laying a hand on my shoulder, are you okay, sweetheart? Unable to answer, I bolted out of the house and dove back in the car. The shriek dulled slightly, but kept on as an incessant wailing whimper. I clutched at my head. It felt as if my brain was on fire. When I was finally persuaded to step across the threshold again, the voice began to speak, yet again, not in words, just an endless stream of urgent babble. And after that, it didn't stop. My cheerful, optimistic personality evaporated within a week of moving in. Even on warm, sunny days, everything felt dark and chilled. It was like I was living in my own personal twilight, blinded by a frigid fog bank, deafened by a howling wind. I was utterly lost in my own home. At first, Mum figured that I was just missing Colorado. She gave me time to mourn our old life without interfering, but as my crippling depression persisted, she started to take notice. She even talked to me once or twice about the possibility of therapy. If you go to therapy, I will hang us up in the closet, the voice growled. For the first few months after we arrived in Virginia, only Mum visited Grandma. Mum explained that her mother had dementia and would often say strange things or not recognize familiar people at all. She figured that I, an incredibly depressed teenager, raging with hormones and mental health problems, would be better off with no contact. But finally, the first Saturday in July, that resolution was tested. When Mum knocks on my door, the voice tells me to yell at her to leave us alone. I open the door for her instead. Mum looks uncharacteristically nervous, picking at her cuticles, eyes darting compulsively around and a distinct twitch in her neck. "No, we can't f***ing talk," the voice shrieks. "Yeah, of course," I say. "Is everything okay, Mum?" She sits down on the edge of my unmade bed, not even commenting on the disastrous mess that my room had become. I haven't had the energy to clean in weeks. The only escape from the wailing, whining, commanding, raging, insulting, dangerous voice is sleep. So if I'm not at school or church, I'm asleep. "Yeah, Casey, everything is okay. It's just Grandma wants to see you." I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that. Yes, we have to see her. We have to see her now. It takes an enormous amount of effort to keep the shock off of my face. The voice is happy. I've never heard it happy before. "Oh, okay. Can I see her? I mean..." Mum lets out a long, slow breath, examining her own fingernails as if she's never seen them before. "Well, my dying mother wants to see her only granddaughter. I can't exactly say no, can I?" "I guess not, but Mum, why wouldn't you want me to see her?" Mum finally forces herself to look at me. There is a strange, haunted look in her eyes. "It's just, she says weird things sometimes, odd things, things that might, well, bother you. Bother me, how? Be disturbing, get in your head, you know." "I'm already in your head," says the voice, "and Grandma knows it." The shock and horror do show on my face this time, despite my best efforts to hide them. My mum apparently takes it as a reaction to our warning. "But don't worry, Casey, I'll be right there with you, and you don't have to go if you don't want to." "No." The word comes out in a harsh, commanding tone that I have never heard myself use before. Mum's eyes get very wide, and she leans slightly away from me. "No to what?" she asks softly, as if trying not to spook a wild animal. I collect myself the best as I can, forcibly shoving down the frantic, shrieking babble. "Sorry, I mean, I do want to see her. I'm not scared or anything." Mum lets out a sigh that seems to somehow combine relief and disappointment. "Okay then, mind if we go now, just to get it over with?" "Sure, of course. I'll get my shoes." As I slip my shoes on, I feel a wild grin spread across my face. A sort of raging, flaming joy sears through me. The feeling, the smile, they are in me, but they are not of me. They're from someone else. They're from her. "So, you finally figured out that I'm a she and not an it, then. About time." The voice is so distinct and articulate that I jump slightly. Yes," I whisper tentatively. "Good. I was getting tired of just being the voice." Chills crawl down my spine, adrenaline zipping to my fingertips. I shouldn't engage with the voice. I shouldn't allow her to be a person. She's just some sort of psychotic break. I shouldn't ask. "What's your name?" I whisper, so quietly that my lips barely move at all. "What was that?" Mum asks. I jump out of my skin, the terror of someone caught with a murder weapon clouding my brain. She must have come up behind me without me noticing, what with the full-blown conversation happening in my head. I didn't... What? eyebrows draw slightly together and she places the back of her hand against my forehead. Are you okay, Casey? Alice. The silent name slices through my consciousness like a gunshot, echoing around in my skull. Instead of acknowledging it, I just said, yeah, I'm okay. Mum observes me suspiciously for another moment, then shrugs. Alright then, let's get this over with. The name ricochets around in my head the whole 20-minute drive to the hospice centre. Alice, 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 Alice. It is relentless, but for once I don't try to drown it out. I roll it over my tongue, silently mouthing the two slippery syllables. Alice. I know with as much unshakable clarity as I know the sun will rise in the east tomorrow that the voice is a she, not an it, and that her name is Alice. This revelation has yet to lose its shock value by the time we have checked into Clear Creek Hospice Centre and been shown to my grandmother's room. My mum stops just outside the door, placing her hands on my shoulders and giving me an uncomfortably piercing look. We only have to stay for a few minutes. Just let her see you, tell her you love her, and that's it. Don't bother about anything else she might say. She doesn't even know who she is half the time, alright, Casey? The voice, Alice, I guess, has fallen back into a stream of low, excited mumbling in which no words are clearly distinguishable except here and there. Grandma. Okay, I say carefully. Okay, Mum says on a sharp exhale. Come on then. I only have a few snapshot memories of Grandma from when Mum and I visited her back when I was 7. Mum visited a few other times, but I always stayed with friends in Colorado. Until now, it had never really struck me as odd how little Mum wanted me to know her. Maybe it's how impossibly fragile she looks, laying in bed all waxy, pale, with straggling silver hair. How could she ever be a threat? Mom asks too loud for the soft, heavy atmosphere. Grandma's head turns slowly towards us, her cornflower blue eyes fasten on Mum first. Cora. Hi, Ma, I brought Casey to see you. Casey. Grandma says vaguely. Then she says, Cora, dear, where on earth is Nicholas? He hasn't come with you in such an awfully long time. Chills of dread crawl down my spine. Nicholas Mackenzie was my father, killed over 16 years ago, and still my mum can't stand to speak of him. My eyes dart to fix on Mum, trepidation carved in every line of my body. Nick is dead, Ma, remember? Mum's tone is flat and harsh. I don't know if it's the mention of my father or the tone Mum is taking with Grandma, but the voice in my head begins to shriek in a ragey, teapot sort of way. I force myself to ignore it for the moment. Grandma, I ask, moving to the side of her bed, do you remember me? Disease and mental decline have aged her beyond her physical years. She's only 68, but doesn't look a day under 80. She looks at me for a moment, vague confusion lining her pale face. Slowly, as if every muscle movement is a terrible struggle, she reaches out and slips her hand into mine. Her skin feels like tissue paper that could tear at the slightest provocation, but I don't pull away. I can't seem to break eye contact either. silently straining to place the final piece of a puzzle. As she stares and I stare back, the voice quiets. But no, that's wrong. The voice in my head isn't fading. I am fading. My thoughts are melting into the background. Just as this mind-bending idea solidifies in my sinking consciousness, something shifts in Grandma's eyes. It's the final piece of the puzzle. Her expression is suddenly alert, joyful even. A radiant smile spreads over her face, and her old, raspy voice has a sweet lightness to it as she exclaims, "Alice, my dear, I never thought I would see you again." Mum makes some sort of terrible sound like choking on thin air, then snatches my hand out of Grandma's. "Alright, Casey, tell Grandma you love her and then let's go." Mechanically, I say the prescribed words. "I love you, Grandma." I find her eyes again, those ethereal chicory blue eyes, and add in a defiant whisper, "We both do." I don't mean me and my mother, I mean me and whoever the hell Alice is. And then my mom is pulling me out of the room, and the voice in my head, Alice, is back to wailing and shrieking like a wounded cat. "Mom, who is Alice?" I ask the second the car doors close. "No one," Mom snaps. "Your grandmother is senile." "No, she's not," I say, my own voice rising. "You have to tell me who Alice is." "Honestly, Casey," Mom nearly shouts as she puts the car into reverse and peels out of the parking lot. "This is why I never took you to see Ma before. I knew you would take whatever insane nonsense she would spout straight to heart." "It's not nonsense," I yell. "Alice is real. She's in my head. She has been for as long as I can remember. I just don't know who the hell she is. And she has something to do with Dad. I don't know how I know it, but I do. But that information isn't much help since you've never even told me about him." Mum whips around to stare at me, face drained of all colour. She stares so long that she nearly runs us off the road before snapping back to attention with a few murmured obscenities. She's silent for so long that I think she must be just catastrophically angry with me. I stare out the window at the rolling green countryside, my own thoughts joining Alice in a quiet of rage and confusion and despair. Finally, a sniffing sound breaks through my mental tempest. Confused, I glance over at Mom. Tears are streaming down her face, even as she keeps her eyes fixed on the road. Her knuckles are white on the steering wheel and she's visibly trembling. "Mom," I ask, genuinely concerned. I've seen Mom cry maybe once since, well, ever. "I'm sorry, Casey," she says, all broken and chopped up. "What?" I ask, utterly bewildered. "Sorry for what, Mom?" She just shakes her head and doesn't say anything else until we're parked in front of our house. Then, without looking at me, she says softly, "I'm going back to Clear Creek. I shouldn't have left Ma like that. It's not good for her grip on reality to have familiar people behave erratically. While I'm gone, you go up to the attic. There's a box in the corner labelled C and A. I think you'll find your answer in there, or at least part of an answer. I've no idea why she's in your head. It might help, I hope." "What are you talking about?" I don't get out of the car right away, waiting for an explanation. It doesn't come, so I just sit, examining Mum's rigid profile. Finally, she looks at me. The light freckles stand out on her blanched face, as if it's taken every bit of her energy to keep from completely breaking down. Instead, she reaches out her hand and gently cups the side of my face, running a thumb over my cheek. "I love you, Casey," she whispers. Then, as if the words are being wrenched out of her with pliers, "And I love Alice, too." Her expression crumbles and she plasters her hands over her face. "Go, Casey," she chokes out between her fingers. I go. I've never been up to the attic before. Mum never allowed it, but now I climb the narrow, rickety stairs and cautiously pull open the creaking door. It's a small space, no more than 12 by 12, and lit only by a skylight and a small round window. Dust motes dance in the beams of golden afternoon light. There's plenty of boxes up here, but I spot the small one in the corner by the window immediately. It's set apart, with nothing stacked on or around it like all the other boxes. I kneel down beside it. It's an old brown cardboard thing, only a bit bigger than a shoebox. Printed on the top in faded Sharpie marker is the inscription C and A. My heart is beating terribly fast and I can't quite catch my breath. Tremors run through my body and my hands shake as I carefully open the faded cardboard flaps. A layer of white tissue paper covers the contents, like a bride's veil. As my fingers delicately remove the filmy barrier, I'm struck by two things. One is an intense feeling of standing on the edge of a cliff, looking into the depths of the unknown, and the other is the silence. For the first time since I stepped foot in this house, the voice in my head, Alice, is silent. I lift the tissue paper. On top are what seem to be folded baby clothes. I lift the first tiny onesie out of the box. It's a soft pink and embroidered on the chest in blue script is the name Casey. Laying it aside, I take out the other onesie. This one is light blue with pink embroidery. Chills run from my scalp to my fingertips. Stitched into the blue fabric is the name Alice. Hands shaking uncontrollably, I set the blue onesie on the floor beside the pink one and peer into the box again. Envelopes. A whole layer of envelopes. Only two names appear on them, Cora Mackenzie and Nicholas Mackenzie. I run a fingertip feather light over the second name. Dad. The longmost word slips between my lips unbidden. Almost reverently, I begin reading through every single letter in the box. Mum has hardly ever spoken about my dad. All she ever told me about him was that he was killed in combat overseas while she was pregnant, and that he was a good man, but nothing she could ever have said would have prepared me for the depth of love and hope and longing contained within the dozen letters in this sacred box. Much of the content of the letters slips in and out of my brain like a sweet summer breeze, but some lines stand out as if highlighted on the paper. I have absolutely fantastic, flabbergasting news. Now, don't freak out, but I'm pregnant. I know it's not ideal timing, but if all goes to plan, you should be home right before the baby comes. Cora, 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 oh my god, Cora. We're gonna have a baby. I have been a complete wreck these last 24 hours. I just keep laughing or crying out of nowhere. I better pull it together. Everyone seems to think I'm either going around the bend or not at all cut out for this job. Alright, you better sit down for this one. I heard the heartbeat today, Nick, but it wasn't a heartbeat. It was heartbeats. We're having twins, Nick. miss you so terribly. I just want to dive in the ocean and swim the whole bloody Atlantic just to get back to you. I love you, Cora. First ultrasound today, and girls. We're having 2 girls. Can you believe it? Because I certainly can't wrap my brain around it. Ma's absolutely over the moon, shopping for baby clothes already. I am ecstatic with a nice helping of terrified and nauseous. I wish you were here. So bad. Only 5 months to go. But in the meantime, what do you say we each pick a name? Personally, I like Casey. 5 months feels like about 10,000 years knowing what you're going through all on your own. But I like Casey. That's lovely. As soon as you asked about the names, I knew exactly what to pick, because this whole situation makes me feel like I've fallen into a different world, gone completely insane, and I'm delightfully happy about it. What book does that remind you of? Exactly. So I think we should name her Lewis Carroll. No, I'm kidding. Alice. Casey and Alice. The final letter isn't in an envelope. It is a crumpled wad of paper stuffed into the bottom corner of the box. I unfold it as if it's made of butterfly wings. The script is my mother's, but jagged and shaky and dotted with tear stains. We lost Alice. She came out blue, never even took one breath. The midwife said stillborn, but that's just a special word for dead. Our baby is dead, Nick. Like you. How can I do this without you? How can I raise Casey all alone without a father or a sister? How can... The last sentence cuts off in the middle, as if Mum gave up and crushed the letter. I don't notice that I'm crying until the tears splash onto the letter, creating tiny ripples in the warping paper where my mother's tears fell 16 years ago. I feel as if my heart has been torn out of my chest, wrung out and stuffed back in. My face feels tight with dry tears, even as fresh ones course slowly down my cheeks. Numbly, I reach for the last thing in the box, a manila envelope at the very bottom. Carefully, almost fearfully, I open it and slide out 2 sheets of cardstock. Each one has a set of baby footprints stamped on them in black ink. One is labelled Casey, the other is labelled Alice. See, I was here all along, but you were the one who got to live. You were the one who got Mum. You were the one who got everything. And then you ignored me for 16 years. What did you expect me to have a sunny personality? Did you expect me to care about you and Mum? As if it isn't like either of you ever cared about me. The papers fall from my hands. The voice, her voice, is so clear it's as if she's speaking directly into my ear. Blindly I stand and dash down the attic stairs, narrowly avoiding a twisted ankle. Choking on my own fear and grief, I stumble into the bathroom, trembling violently. I force myself to look into the mirror. Hello, Alice. I think I finally found you. Wow. Once again, Wandering Belle ASMR, thank you so much for sharing your work on the channel. I think you are an incredibly talented writer and ASMR content creator. Thank you guys so much for choosing to hang out with me again tonight. Don't forget to go into the description box and to show Wandering Belle ASMR's channel some love. I once again, thank you guys so much for hanging out. And I think all there is left for me to do right now is to wish you a very, very good night. Good night. Sleep well, sleep well, sleep